Hello and welcome back to AWS OnAir. I'm Jasmine Kyles, a manager of product management here at AWS, and I'm joined by my co-host, AM.
Hey, I'm back. Hey, I'm AM. I'm a developer advocate here at AWS on the game day team. But we've got a wonderful guest joining us.
Yes.
You might have spotted her in the keynote.
Yep. It looks like we've got some royalty coming to the stage here. We always have to make it fun.
I have never been called that before.
It's a first time for everything.
First time ever for everything.
Welcome
I love
to
it.
The stage. For those of us who are, just joining on this audience, they maybe didn't get to catch you earlier. For some folks, they've seen you. Tell us who you are.
So I'm Nupur Davis. Nupur rhymes with super. And I'm the global CISO of Comcast.
Yeah. So you were in the keynote this morning on this stage. Are you relieved?
Oh my gosh. the minute when I said thank you and started walking off, it was like,
Wait, it's lifted. But it was jam-packed with so much great information.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But I'm used to speaking to like groups of 200.
Yeah.
But this was like next level. There were several thousand people in that room. So that was a little intimidating.
Yeah, and even more joining us on live and chatting in real time, talking about it.
Exactly. It was a great experience. The AWS team, oh my gosh, they took care of everything.
That's wonderful.
It was amazing.
So tell us about your day-to-day at Comcast. What are you looking after? And tell us what you're hearing from customers and all about security.
Oh my gosh, that would take a year or two. But okay, I'll try to condense it.
Yeah.
So, there are multiple parts of a CISO's role. And, there's the part that everybody thinks about, which is, there are incidents going on, there's new vulnerabilities popping up. And so that's kind of like the operational side. How do we keep our security infrastructure running? How do we respond to incidents? How do we learn about new threats? Oh my gosh, there's a new 0 day today. How do we go? So that's, and I have an amazing team.
Yeah.
And so, the things there that need to escalate get escalated to me. And, several times a day I get updated and, but a lot of that work just keeps happening.
Yeah.
But then there's the, how do you lead and motivate a big team? That part takes a lot of time, just doing things like reviews and, career development plans and making sure that, our team is getting the right training and so on. And then there's the whole engagement with partners.
Okay.
And the partners can be like AWS, an important partner for us, or they can be partners in law enforcement, the FBI, the CISA, all. Or it can be regulatory partners, or it can be internal partners, right? Yeah. My general counsel, my global auditor, my boss.
Yeah.
So it's always a super interesting day. I don't think I've had a boring day, and I've been doing this for 9 years.
Yeah.
So
that's a good way to put it.
I mean, speaking of exciting, as I was watching you on the keynote, I hear a program. Another program. I'm thinking certainly there can't be more programs.
Yeah.
There's so many programs you covered.
Oh, absolutely.
I would love to hear from you, Nupur. If there was, we didn't get to go as in depth because you had so many to talk about. What's one of the ones that you talked about on the keynote that you maybe give us a little bit more details about some of the innovations that you all have been driving?
Yeah. So let me talk about two. So, our first North Star is build security in. And that is really my passion. I started as a developer, wrote lots of code, and I got into security because I was very interested in, how do you write secure code? And that was my introduction to cyber. And we've done a tremendous amount of innovation in that space. And, I won't talk about tools because everybody can build tools, right?
Sure.
We build tools. But the biggest innovation, I think, is on how do you change culture? And, Amy talked about this, right, about the security culture at AWS. So one of the things that we have built over the years is something we called X-Cyber Score.
Okay.
And it is a FICO-like score. You get a number from 0 to 1,000. And we have over 1,000 development teams that are onboarded to our platforms. And they each get a cyber score. And the reason I really love it is because it's a culture changer. So, for example, my boss will set a yearly goal.
Okay.
This year I want the average X cyber score to be 765. I'm making up a number, right?
Sure.
And that motivates the entire org. And it also promotes healthy competition, right? Which is a way to promote, good things.
Yeah.
And it helps me as CISO because you don't get the same score every year. The score is reset at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And I get to assign weights, like, this particular practice, if you're doing, will now contribute 30% to your score, whereas last year it may have only contributed 10. So that then is a way that I can roll out my priorities to
Almost
the
like
entire
a
org.
gamification.
It is exactly that. It's just gamification.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes it very simple for all the executives. They don't need to know all the details.
Right.
They just need to know if my team is at 765, it's a good team.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the first questions they always ask is, what is my peers' team score, right? So
Yeah.
that's the gamification.
Yeah.
which
That's
I
that
love.
motivation that
Exactly.
teams need to be able to
Exactly.
keep going. And,
Exactly.
it sounds like it probably can help coach them in the
Oh my
right
gosh,
direction to go in.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we do have a team of, in fact, we call them coaches,
Okay.
security coaches. And that's what they do. They're like, okay, we have to get to this score this year. How can we help?
Okay.
And then, it's hands-on help, like
Yeah.
hands-on keyboard
Right.
type of help.
So I have a similar background.
Yeah.
I'm a developer, right?
Yeah.
I write code,
Yeah.
do all this. I also got very interested in security as well. So I highly relate to what you're talking about. This is a question that came up. We had a segment earlier with some AWS and Amazon security professionals, Tom and Steven. Is a question I love to ask everyone, especially coming from a development background, right? I see a real great path for people who align strictly to security, right? Don't have a development background. I see this line with, AI assisted coding and things coming in, opening that world for security
Yes.
professionals, right? What I'm curious about from a security side, how do we get more developers involved deeper into security, right? I think that's, for me at least, when I was getting into it, there's so much to learn.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
so much jargon.
Yes.
There's so many, CVEs and all
Oh my
these,
gosh. I know.
It's like another language.
I know.
So from your perspective, what do you recommend to development teams? How do they get more involved in the security
The security
processes?
part. So, I'll be really honest. Most developers just want security to go away.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's,
let's
it's
just
slowing
be
you
honest.
down, right?
Yeah, slows it down. And that's not their main target and goal is, I'm working on this awesome new feature and capability, and I have a customer waiting for it, right? And here's the security people slowing me down. So one way that we get past that is to really make security easy. How do we make it so that it is automated, it is built in? Amy talked about this a lot today, right? Integrated into the CI/CD pipelines, integrated into the work that you do every day,
Yep.
right? So now there are people who will just suddenly go, oh my gosh, this is really interesting. I mean, the whole crypto area or post-quantum or, and they'll gravitate to the security side. And one way of doing that is we have gigs, where our developers can come and do a gig with a security team. We also have internships where people can just come and do. We have residency programs where people can come and just work, and that gives you a chance to really get your hands dirty,
Yes.
right? And some of them will stay. They'll actually make that switch. And some of them will go, okay, it was interesting, but I want to go back to what I was doing, right? And both are good outcomes,
Of
by
course.
the way. So,
Because
yeah.
then even the folks who go back, you've trained them up and
Exactly.
leveled up their knowledge on security.
Exactly.
And hopefully they take that back and even think about those considerations
Exactly.
instead of saying hey, let's just get to market. Maybe they'll stop, they'll pause, take some of those things that they've learned
Exactly.
and bring it back to their team.
Absolutely. It's goodness all around.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
That was my gateway, by the way, was like encryption, decryption,
Yes.
and cryptographic algorithms.
That's hardcore. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Oh my gosh.
Go
I
in
know.
and learn that from a coding perspective.
Oh my God, goodness. Yes.
It got me
Yeah.
hooked.
So we're not at AWS scale, but at Comcast we do run our own PKI system. And we just issued our billionth certificate this in January of this year, and we do that full life cycle management. But even with all of that, and I love the announcement today that now we can export out of, right? That was really, really cool. The even with all of that, though, development teams still struggle with.
They do.
It's not, even if you go, just make this API call, and from then on, your certs are managed forever, right?
Yeah.
That's still hard to do. It's not easy to, define the right scope for your cert and all of that kind of. And I'm not a cryptographer, and
I'm not either, but I'm
like,
fascinated by it.
It's fascinating, absolutely.
And I think that's important for anybody who wants to get into security, is finding one of those areas and just dive in.
Absolutely.
Right?
And oh my gosh, it's a feast, right? Because you could, if your interest is in IT, we got something for you. If your interest is in governance and risk and compliance, we've got things for you. If your interest is in coding, we've got things for you. If your interest is in cryptography, we have things for you. If your interest is in AI and data. So, I mean, it's a amazingly diverse set of. I always encourage, young people, and especially women, that, this is an amazing field to join.
Yeah.
Because, it gives you so much career flexibility. And it pays well.
Yeah.
And most of us have families, that we need to feed and take care of. So,
Yeah. And speaking of women, we talk about wanting to get more women in tech, especially women in cybersecurity.
Yes.
You've been recognized for, helping women to get in and being a voice for women. Why do you think that that's important, and what can we do?
Oh my gosh, it is so important. By the way, I have to just stop for a minute and say how thrilled I was to see Amy on that stage.
Yes.
She did such a fabulous job. I mean, I can't imagine being on for 2 hours, and she was like flawless. I am more towards the end of my career than the beginning of my career, and I am still almost always the only woman in the room.
Okay.
And that's how it's been, right, for 30 plus years. And there is a value that we bring with diversity. And, it can be all types, right? People from different backgrounds, people from different abilities, people, different genders, people from different geographies. Yeah. And, when we, cybersecurity at the very, we talk about tech because we're all techies, but, at its foundation, it's a human behavior issue, right?
Yeah.
And the more diversity we have in those human behaviors and we learn, I think it just improves the whole ecosystem. Yeah. So, plus it's just a matter of fairness.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I saw in your background that I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic, is that you sit on the advisory board for Comcast, NBC, Universal's Tech Women.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and how you're bringing women together across the industry.
Yes. So, we have a Tech Women group.
Okay.
And it is really an affinity group. Our Tech Women come together for all kinds of things. The main one being, how do we learn and grow and become better technologists?
Yeah. Okay.
That's really, really important. But the second, which is just as important, is community.
Okay.
How do we build a community where, we can just have, very specific conversations that may be very specific to being a technical woman.
Yeah.
It's a long-standing organization. We have over 2,000 members, across the globe. And we do an annual conference. We have, amazing, awesome speakers, and just very motivating for our members.
Yeah.
So it's a great group.
That sounds fascinating, especially getting a global group together.
Absolutely.
So, we have a global group and an audience watching us. So what do you say, what's your advice for people coming from diverse backgrounds who want to get involved in cybersecurity?
I would say, look, there's still more jobs than people in cyber, right? Even with everything that's going on in the world, there's still a lot of demand. So I would say, just jump in. It's sometimes you can overthink things, and don't make a list of everything you can't do. Make a list of the things you can do, and then go and sell those things and sell your ability to learn. That's what I look for when I hire people, right? It's not what you know, it's how much can you learn? And that's the key, I think.
We actually, it's very appropriate you bring this up. We have a question from chat, and so just to preface, I'm a tech transplant. I was an elementary school teacher.
Oh my gosh!
And I transplanted.
So you did
tech.
the hardest job in the world.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And that's actually something I've reflected on since joining. Is that when you first join tech, you look at these other skills you've developed outside of tech, and they look like something that's not applicable. You go, oh, well, I'm not going to need teaching. I'm not going to need my communication. I need these like hardcore tech skills. I need to know how to code. I need to know cybersecurity. I need to know this. And it's actually the opposite that I've found over the years is that I hate that they call them this, but soft skills have come into play way more than my technical skills ever have. So our question from chat, big lead up there, sorry. But what skills would you recommend somebody either, coming into tech or a junior level person, what skills should they focus on? And what do you look for when you're hiring?
So, if you're just starting out, then, you do need to have the basic craft, whatever that is. And again, I would not look for 12 things. I would look for a couple of things, right? And so, but once you have that basic craft, as you grow in cyber, you're absolutely right. Communications, especially written communication, I'm so glad we have things like AI now to help with that.
Yeah.
But is absolutely the key, because we spend most of our time communicating with our peers, our customers, our relationships that we build. So that's super important. But you do have to have, some basic crafts. And again, remember, I just went over all of the areas where you have a chance to, they're program managers, project managers, again, IT skills, networking skills, coding skills, governance skills, audit skills, communication skills, training skills. Yeah. A lot of cyber is about training, right? So teaching. So it's a huge amount of capability.
Yeah. What else are we hearing from chat? Do we have a poll?
Yeah, we've got a poll up. I'm not sure. I didn't see what the poll was, but you all answer the poll, whatever it is. Please engage with the poll. I didn't see the question. Hopefully, Alex or Debbie can tell me what the poll question
is.
But I love that answer, by the way. I think, there's always something else you can learn about tech. You're never going to know enough, right? Yeah. You're always, as you said, always going to keep learning that side. Some of these other skills, though, can atrophy, or you can ignore them because you spend too much time over here on the tech side. And I think, to me, they're equally, if not sometimes more important.
Totally agree.
I love hearing that from you, too, as a confirmation, at least thoughts in my own head. Oh, here's the poll. What is your biggest concern about AI and ML in your security program? That's the poll.
That's a good poll.
Oh, that is a good poll.
Do you want to answer that one?
Oh, my gosh. I guess my biggest concern is security's ability to keep up.
Yeah.
I love the opportunities that this is presenting. I do worry about the threats too.
Yeah.
And, will we be able to keep up?
Yeah.
That's
a good way to think about it. Concern. And, you hear a lot of people saying, my concern is this and my concern is that. And it's building a whole nother industry, right?
It's building a whole
responsible AI.
Exactly.
It's one of our pillars when we talk about implementing AI. We also give recommendations on how to use it responsibly.
Totally.
I agree. The technology is moving fast.
It's just moving so fast.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what we got from the poll here. Newport, we are about to close.
Oh my gosh.
We're already out of time.
Time is just flying by. Where can people learn more about what you're doing with Comcast and follow you and your journey?
I am on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And, for Comcast, we have Xfinity.com, Comcast.com, those are the two places that we can start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely.
Well,
Thank you. This has been lovely, and
Yeah.
time just flew by.
I
You guys
know.
are so good at this. So,
It has been
thank you.
wonderful. All right. Well, we will be back with more, so stay tuned.